Okay, once again, good morning and welcome to the full-on HR Outlook webinar, as the case is. My name is Joel Omike. I'll be playing host for today's topic. Our engagement today is on the emerging strategic HR, why it has become an art of war. Somewhere earlier this year, in the first quarter, we had the opportunity to listen to our speaker, and he shared with us very, very thought-provoking initiatives, emerging trends within the HR space, within the working environment, and how these things were destabilizing or shaking the previous tenets that HR operates with. Today, we have the privilege of inviting him a second time with an extended time to share with us deeper how these trends and how these things can be received by HR positively and be able to prepare for these trends as they come on board over time. I work with P4P Institute. We are a consulting firm based here in Lagos and with interest across Nigeria and West Africa. This particular forum is one of the sessions that we normally use to bring the HR community together for them to engage and share thoughts and share ideas. Please reserve your questions till the end of the discourse, except if the facilitator calls for those questions somewhere in the middle of the discussion. Use the chat box as much as you can. It will help you to engage and interact very well. We encourage you to use the emoji as much as possible so we can hear your reactions. In fact, I think we should test it. So if you can use any of the emojis on your Zoom system, okay, I'm going to use one and see. Good, so it's beginning to come in. So that will help you to interact with the facilitator so he knows you are following him. Because in some cases, you may not be able to unmute and speak. Once you wish to share some thoughts, just raise your hand. If he's at the point where he can discuss with you or with us, he will invite that discussion. If not, so he may define it till the end. So it's an honor and opportunity to once again welcome our speaker. He is no other than the transformer himself. Call him AA. He comes highly recommended. He has built a lot within the HR space, and beyond HR, he has touched quite some interesting lives. He is the executive director of LSDPC, anchoring the Enterprise Services Directorate. He is a fellow of CIPM. He is well versed in various areas in which we are going to have this particular conversation. Interestingly, he has very, very affiliate relationships with Performance Development Consulting Institutes and a few other councils that he belongs to. And he has been a council member of CIPM also, and also the founder of the Nehemiah Aromorals Foundation. So you have our attention, you have our audience. Please take it away.
Thank you very much, Joel. Like I said, when you have your ignorance on listening to you, the people that nurtured you to where you are, like TA, you first will develop cold feet. But it's always a privilege and an honor to be recognized and honored with the same people that you drank from the same source with them, or they were a source of feeding you. I want to think back as far back as a Chapel of the Healing Cross, when I first, as a young boy, used to admire Auntie T.A. and her husband. So it's a privilege and an honor. So I salute you. Thank you very much for showing up and being here. I hope we can all hear me.
Yes, but we cannot see you.
Yes, I will. Okay, so here I am. So before I start, you started by asking a question, emerging HR strategic HR, the new act of war. And yesterday I asked a question. I was privileged to have been at the inauguration, especially the one in Lagos and virtually with the one in Abuja. And I asked the question, who is the new head of HR? And they were looking at me and I said, yes, HR for Nigeria. Who is the chief HR officer for Nigeria? And they were looking at me. And I said, I know why I'm asking this question. I'm not saying the chief HR commanding officer, which is the president-elect that has been sworn in, but who is the chief HR officer? Is it the chief of staff? Is it the secretary to the government? Is it the senior security head of protocol? Is it the media person for the president? And I said, the reason why I've said that is that the HR person should have been consulted first before the insertion of the removal of, or the statement about the removal or the outcome of fuel subsidy. And they said, why? I said, just wait till tomorrow morning. Or just wait an hour after, you will see what happens. I said, so one of the emerging strategic HR trends, being a new act of war, is the way we communicate to the people. Very crucial. The way people hear, especially where there is a perception. So HR has become a perception of leadership. Now, when the people have a wrong perception, whatever good intentions you have, whatever good realities you have, whatever the truth is, they will receive it with a pinch of salt. So this morning I stopped at one of the stations that were open. Fuel is selling for 600 naira per liter. Now, the statement was not that it was off, but the reality was that there was no provision in the budget. And so there must be an understanding of HR being war, because whatever you do or whatever you don't do, get a response and a reaction. That's number one. I'm just laying this foundation so that we can be on the same page from where I'm coming from. Then I said number two, that statement, the way it was made, took away the president and his family and some people close to him from the reality of the economy. Because if he had thought about it to say, I am also, if he had thought about it that, for example, if he also has to drive into a filling station this morning or the weeks ahead to buy his fuel, and the fuel was billed to a part of his allowance that is deducted from, maybe he would not have said it that way without any feelings. Even though he meant well, the motive was the truth, but he was not looking at it from that angle, that, oh, I am also going to be using this fuel. So he gave the impression to people who I had a discussion with yesterday to say, you see, he's already acting like Nigeria will sort his own fuel out. It's not his concern. And so that's why HR has suddenly become a act of war. Because if the people had access to whatever ammunition this morning, missiles, whatever, they would probably have bombarded the villa this morning with it to send a message to say, no, you cannot think like that. You cannot talk like that, even if you are the commander-in-chief. And so that's why the role of HR becomes the chief war officer of an organization. Because if your MD says something and it doesn't go down well with the people, you cannot, these days it's not just about lockout. I was told the other day of a company, a manufacturing company, who the MD came to one of the factories and they made him kneel down and carry a block for a couple of hours. and HR was standing there, couldn't do anything just because the man said something that didn't go down well with the people. So that's the foundation upon which I'm coming from. And so I am going to basically just, okay, my slides are not moving. Why are they stuck again? Joel, can you let me try from your own end? It's not changing from my hand. It was changing before. It's currently not moving. Yeah. Sometimes you are faced with this. Okay, let me see. All right, so maybe I will work with it for this week for now. Let me see whether I will go back. Okay, it has started moving. So this is the outline. I will basically skip this, but we look at it. What's in it for me? Expectation, the concept of HR as an act of war. I've given a bit of my perspective. I'll come up with another one, and then emerging trends, the realities, my counsel, recommendations, and questions and answer. Also, this is something that I will come back to towards the end. But if it was possible for us to all open our videos, for example, and I ask us to close our eyes and point in the direction of the north, I can imagine that many of us, all of us, will point in different directions. That's what perception does. Yes, some people will point where they think the north is, but it's important that we will know that there will always be a variation to our perception. So let me go on. So that's my twin. All right, Joel, I think I heard you asking somebody why they were here. So I would like 3 people. Why are you attending? What are your expectations? Any first 3 people that are on mute. Why are you attending? Hello? Okay, Neka, why are you attending?
Thank you, the Prince. I'm attending because a lot of the time, these events have a global or regional outlook or focus. So to actually have one that is Nigeria focused or specific, especially at a time like this, it's a major, very decisive time for us as Nigerians, aid Nigeria, and as you say, for all the reasons that the people function is quite pivotal to the success of businesses and the nation. It's a great time to come around to an event like this to talk about the outlook.
All right, thank you very much. Okay,
Thanks.
So Neka is raising up her hand and somebody else is doing the same. Yeah, you can unmute and speak.
Yes, my name is Stephanie.
Stephanie?
Yes, for me, I'm attending because over time, I've realized that the different trends in nature have a way of impacting our current reality. And so for me, it's an opportunity to understand it and also take away 1 or 2 things on what I can do about the current challenges or the plan for the future.
Right.
In the light
Thank
of
you.
what I learned.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. 3 words in the topic stare at me, or should I say shout at me. And I've released my video, so I hope you can see me.
Yes.
So the 3 words are strategic, art, and war. Now, if I look at them simplistically, there's already war within the 3 words. There's a bit of art within the 3 words. And so I was just interested to see how, well, they call you the transformer. How would you bring to bear these 3 distinctive words in this topic? Thank you.
Right. Strategic, art, and war. Good. All right, so let's carry on. I'm happy that you asked that question. It also was a very interesting bringing it to reality. Joe, what did you do earlier on? It's frozen again.
So what I said is, see if you can stop sharing and then share again.
Okay.
Try it again. Just see if it is moving on your own system first.
Yes, it's actually doing. I wonder.
It's technology sometimes.
It just does that. Well, it's still moving again. Okay, so let me go back again. It's good that we have enough time though. So
Did I share my version?
maybe you should share your version.
Although, let me see.
Okay, so it's moving again now. All right, so let's carry on. All right, the concept of strategic HR as an act of war. Now, TA and every has put on the front burner. So I want us to look at it this way. So my perspective, imagine that life is like an ocean. Ocean to the right, to the left, in front and behind you. And in this ocean of life are all kinds of dangerous animals. So in this ocean, there's the shark, there are other terrible sea animals in this ocean of life. And the interesting thing is that we're all swimming in that ocean. That was the perspective I was trying to explain to the government people yesterday. That when government people make statements as if they're not swimming in that same ocean of life, they're not going to the same market. In a way, they're not going to the same market actually, because they don't go to the market anymore. They don't drive into the filling station. But then HR itself, as an individual, not as a function, not as a department, but the personnel in HR are also in that ocean of life. We're swimming in that same ocean. We're trying to avoid those dangerous animals in the ocean. Like every other person, including the people above us, your managing director, your executive directors, your management, your colleagues are parallel to you, your people below you, everyone is swimming in that same ocean. But when they are being attacked or when they are drowning, they reach out to HR. And they reach out to HR forgetting that HR is also trying to survive. That's number one. Number two, HR also believes as if they exist not in that same ocean of life. We tend to think that we're not swimming in that same ocean of life. And so people reach out to you, they tug at you, they pull you down, so that if you're not careful, you will drown before them. Now, when there's also a trouble in the organization, the management, you are the first to be reached out to. So everybody is concentrating on you. And that is why HR now has become an act of war. Your survival must be strategic. That means you must know what to pay attention to. You must know what to ignore. You must know what is priority. You must know what to put on the front burner. And that is why people are saying HR has moved from HR, the strategic business partner, to HR, the strategic matron. So HR now has become a matron. You have babies in your organization swimming in the same ocean. Who, when anything happens, they want feeding bottle immediately. You also have people who have become strong-headed over time. They are not moved by anything. There's nothing you do that they feel is right. There's nothing you want to change that they give you support to. So you are in the middle and everybody is fighting you. That is why HR has become the act of war. You have to learn survival. You yourself, you have to address your mental well-being. You have to address your physical well-being. You have to elevate your emotional intelligence to that point where you don't get upset. That is one level. Now, whether you like it or not, you might think because you're not the MD, you think the MD is above that same emotions and the same sentiments. No, the MD will come to you. So that's why you are the chief war commander. You will learn to address different situations. You will learn to cope with different situations. You are the incident commander, whether you like it or not. Things that will happen that everybody believes that you must have an answer to. And so, war is not just you are fighting an enemy. War is that you are fighting to stay alive and maintain certain things. So when I look at war, the destruction that happens, the dislocation that happens with people, it is the same way with organizations now. So people are facing Japa syndrome. It is totally disrupting your organization. You cannot even plan. Okay, for this example this morning now, I have had a meeting immediately with admin because I am managing the enterprise and leading the transformation. So the moment that statement was made yesterday, for example, that oil subsidy is gone, I knew I must have a meeting this morning immediately with admin. What do we do with fuel? So there's fuel allowance for staff bosses. So this morning, I already had a meeting with them, and already people are saying that when we can't come to work, it's because we don't have money to pay for public transport. That is what I am facing now. Am I going to say to them that we're going to review immediately? I need to meet with finance. So after this session, I'm meeting with finance to say, what do we do? And then I bring everybody together to a table, and everybody, I am sure, will defend their position. The union is already said they want to see me. What's going to happen? So I have a war situation here now. The business must survive. So I can't just say we will increase. Increase to what? By what degree? By what percentage? So my head, I'm here holding this session, but my head is in that meeting. What am I going to say to them? So I've asked for some analysis. Thank God that I have a little group of people who are financial analysts who work with me. I've told them, begin to look at figures. What do we do? We don't even know what figures we're operating with. So what do we do? And this is going to cut across. So aviation fuel will also witness its own increase. So many things is going to happen. People have been billed to travel officially for trainings. They're going to fly. So this whole change in one day is going to make nonsense of the budget we've put in place. So my head is working, and I'm trying to be here and be there as well. And that's why it's an act of war. So I'm going through a mental, what will I call it now? A mental psychological issue. I'm trying to be useful here, and I'm also trying to prepare my mind for that meeting. So do you understand the way it has become war? Now, everybody is waiting for you. So MD sends me a message and says, I want a solution. Kindly have something ready by 2 o'clock for us to look at. Now, I thank God that yesterday I was already preparing my mind. But imagine if you didn't prepare your mind and you come in now. And then we have a limit to what we can approve. So part of the proposal ends by saying we need to present something to Mr. Governor by 5 p.m. today. So my whole day today now has witnessed a disruption. Now, I was planning to leave immediately after this program and go and see the doctor that I'm not feeling too well. Now, I've had to psych myself up to say, whether I like it or not, I must meet those deadlines. That is why it is war now. I need to survive. But I can't tell any one of them I'm saying I'm not feeling well, because that means nothing will happen. They need my perspective. They need my contribution. They need my involvement. So it becomes very interesting for everybody. That is why it is an act of war. All right, so emerging trends. Let's look at emerging trends. Globalization, we may say it has been there before, But globalization has now become very much more at our doorstep, especially with the Japa syndrome. So the other day I was looking and saying, what exactly are people who are Japaring exporting? Are they exporting skills and competencies, or are they exporting hard labor? Now, when I speak to a number of them who have gone and I say to them, what are you doing? I found out that what they are doing is more of hard labor than anything. Now, there's so much cross-border movement right now, whether we like it or not. We saw what just happened, for example, in Sudan. Now, the truth is that many of us may never have thought that we had many Nigerians like that in Sudan. But suddenly we're faced with the coming back of people from Sudan. What do they do? Where do they go? We were faced earlier in the year, last year also, with the people coming out of Ukraine. Our people who were in school, medical school, who have had to suspend suddenly come back home. So you find them also now in the system. What do we do with them? Climate change. I'm sure many of us saw the notices that say, oh, there will be more lightning and thunder this year from the oceanographers and all of that. That also will affect. I was talking to some farmers the other day when I went home, and they said, oh, the way the rain is coming is already affecting the way they need to plant. They had not prepared this, they had not prepared that, and the rain is here already. So you find that also is challenging all of us. Climate change. Initially, we did not think anything about it, but now it is confronting all of us. Then the green economy, everybody wants to go green. How does that affect us? The other day, a friend called me and said, oh, he's bidding for something somewhere, and they're asking him what is his company's green economy policy. And I said, put something together. I said, oh, I should let him put something. I said, no. What exactly do you understand about green economy? So that is also confronting us. Then circular economy is also where nothing is wasted. Now, this is also a new trend. People are saying that, is it possible that nothing is wasted in production, in farming, agriculture? And then I am saying, okay, so how else can you also ensure that you recruit well, that nobody within your recruitment is redundant in the sense that they're not really contributing any value. You can't trace their value to anything that is worth the while for the organization. So how do you apply circular economy as an HR person? How do you ensure that everyone you recruit, whether they are political candidates or not, they are adding value, they are contributing, and you can trace their value addition to final outcome? Then social media, very powerful now. People can use social media positively or negatively. It has become, for many of us, a negative social trend. It's an emerging trend. So how do you deploy social media to your advantage as an HR person within your organization? There was a time that people would say, our internet facility is not for people to do this, do that. But that trend is going. So they will not use your internet facility. They will use their own data. But half of the time now, the level of concentration to their phone, either by the fact that they are on Facebook or Snapchat or on TikTok doing something, is divided by the time they give attention to your business. So you must know how you really use social media positively within your organization. And then you have this generation who, when they tweet something, within a few seconds, people are tweeting, unlike our generation. If you tweet something, because you don't understand the Twitter language or the social media language, you don't get any retweets. And so we must find a way in our business model in reaching the next generation by working with the next generation within your organization to use social media as a platform to canvas and add value to your business. So you cannot continue to say, let's put policies whereby they can't use it. You have to put a mindset of them using it for the benefit of the organization. So that is why it's also an act of war. That is not just a rethinking, it's a reshaping of our minds and our actions to say what used to be negative, how can it become positive? Global terrors and conflicts. In fact, that will continue. The other day when the US and when Houston, and we suddenly realized that everywhere we turned, we were hearing sporadic gunshots. And so for me, it was, how do you even say you're going on vacation and you're sure you'll be back? You won't enter a store, a Walmart or any other store, a restaurant, and somebody opens fire. So global terror is there, global conflict is there. So I was in Abuja before the inauguration and the military was everywhere. It gives you a sense of tension that is not necessary. So all of these things have become survival. That is what makes it an act of war. That's survival instincts that we did not have to be so conscious of before. What about online payment platforms? See the way many money point, this point, that point, is surfacing. It's become everywhere. It's become like pure water payment platforms. What about the issue of emerging markets? What about the issue of renewable energy? Everybody is talking renewable energy. The other day, I attended a motor car show. And I was looking at the statistics that many of us that have Mercedes-Benz will not find the spare parts for our car very soon, because everybody is looking at cars that don't drive the normal way that most of us are used to. And then power is not going to be run by the way we're used to. So the other day they said a Tesla, which is one of those new cars, broke down on Third Mainland Bridge because there's no charging point. So whether we like it or not, one of the things combined with emerging markets and renewable energy is that we're going to wake up one day and there will be no spare parts for our old cars, because the new cars are going to be what they're going to be producing. Human trafficking, child labor, that has been there for a while, but it's now become more apparent when we began to look at the way companies source for their resources that they use, especially manufacturing companies, pharmaceutical companies. We notice that they're still using the issue of child labor in most of the African nations. Human trafficking, whether for organ transplant, organ whatever, we have a very familiar case that we're all used to. I mean, these are all issues related to people. And when you look at people, you must think HR. Very, very important. And then COVID-19 pandemic, we will never go back to the way things used to be, whether we like it or not. Now, every nation is silent about COVID-19, but nobody has come out to say COVID-19 has totally gone. So this morning I came in and I saw a few of my staff wearing face masks. And I said, what's happening? They said, well, people are coughing everywhere, people are sneezing everywhere, in the buses and everything. We've had to put some people away for a while. We had to get medical clearance to put them away. So getting in here, for example, I found out that when I talk about here, I'm talking about LSTPC, I found that there were many people who had some funny terminal illness and disease. We're currently running a full medical check for everybody in partnership, not that we didn't pay for it. We paid over 10 million to Mikio to run a full medical check, because suddenly last year, towards the end of the year, many people talking to their children and they said they died. This one died, that one died. And I said, hey, hold on. I want to access a knowledge, even though it's not written, it's not spoken. Usually people in public service will have actually aged away like 5 years or more from their age. So it is possible that somebody that says they're 50, they may actually be 55 or 56. And the work they are doing is too strenuous for them. So things were happening. Now, to get that approval to spend over 10 million to run a full-scale medical check with Mikio for the 400 and something odd staff took a lot of justification. I had to talk about the fact that it is not good for the brand that people are dying like that. Let us even know everybody's status. Where is everybody? What are they going through? Can you give us a medical report? Now, in asking for that medical report on everybody, the union took it up and said, client, doctor, what do you call it? Client, doctor, non-disclosure agreement is there in place. So I had to engage the union to say, this is for the good of everybody. I'm not telling them to give us a full-scale report, but if the person has an illness or an ailment that could be negatively impactful, to say the person may not be able to do the work they're doing. And it took months to get that negotiation with the union. Every day, I would go in one direction, they will go in the other direction. I will come back again, deploy another direction. Finally, we got a sign off on it with them on certain agreement. It is war, whether we like it or not. You may be in an organization that does not have a union, but you'll be amazed what people are saying. Your people are saying behind you. And so this is why all these things have become war. Some of the drivers, they can't see very well, but they've eaten it. Some of them, in doing the test, we found out that some of them were at the first level of arthritis. So when they can't hold the steerings very well, some of them we realized that their blood pressure was amazing. Some of them we realized that in the morning, all those things they take to say gives them strength and energy actually is negative for their body. But they said they've been doing it for many years. So you sit down with them and you have to try and explain to them that it is not good for their body. And they tell you that this is what gives us strength in the morning. And they justify, they argue it. So it is no longer you're just giving an instruction, you're actually mentoring, you are becoming a matron to them. You're trying to help them understand that this is not good for them. Now, there's some who have been in the system for 22, 23 years. We came out with an exit package, brilliant exit package. And we said, we're thinking of you, though you have 4 years, but we have calculated what we will pay you in 4 years, and we have multiplied it by a certain percentage that we give you 100% of what you will get in 4 years now. Take it and go so that we can engage younger people. They said no, that in case there are increases within those 4 years. And I said, look, historically, you have not had those kind of increases. Why do you think you will have those kind of increase? That is war. You have to be strategic. And then another thing I found out was the issues of compromise 20 years ago is now come to haunt the organization now. And I remember when I first joined, I said to them that I've noticed these compromises. It will not speak now, but in another 20 years, the younger people that will occupy this management cadre will have to deal with that situation. So, for example, now I'm also dealing with the fact of saying, how do I correct the orientation that has been given to the next generation? And they said to me that this is the way it has been. So the guys currently leading this place, managing this place, took their orientation from 20 years ago, and they've been there for 20 years, and they've given it to the younger people. So if you're going to lead and transform this place, that mind change of the younger generation is a major war for me. Every one of them says, this is the way we've been doing it. This is the way. Now, one of the things I used to get their buying to my side was that everybody came and said, this change, we're worried, we're concerned. You want to ask us to go, Kiniko. So I said to them, I called a meeting of all of them. And I said, you know, you all come and tell me about your concern for the change. But none of you have ever asked me, what is my own concern for the change? I have a letter saying you've been appointed to transform this place. We expect this deliverable, but none of you have asked me that, how am I taking it? So days I sit down in my office alone and I'm thinking, will this change work? I'm swimming against a tide. I am climbing a steep hill. Nobody is helping me. Will it work? So I am going through a mental torture of asking myself, if they ask me, Mr. Governor and everybody, to say, how is the transformation going? What will I answer? And so I am going through that mental torture because I don't want to fail. It is stated in the letter appointing me that we hope the confidence reposed and the knowledge that you're a transformer will turn out positively. So every day I come in early before any one of them. I sit in the car park and I'm saying, Lord, help me. But beyond the Lord helping me, I must find strategies where I deal with all the offensive weapons. So all of these things is offensive. That's why it's war. And then I have some people whose trade in stock is to frustrate everything you're doing. You also have to deal with them. You have to laugh with them. You have to try and accommodate them. So you are dealing with all of this and you must survive. You must keep your own health. You must keep your own sanity. You don't want to finish the transformation and you yourself have been transformed negatively. That is why it is war. And some of these things are playing out. Mindsets, behavioral orientation. They say to me that this is the way they've been doing it. Whenever I come up with something, they say, no. Hey, this is the way we do it here. This is the way we've been doing it here. So you find compromises everywhere. Where they are meant to spend 800,000 naira to do something right, they overlook it. And months down the line, you are faced with approving 10 million to repair and correct what 800,000 would have done 2 years ago. And I'm thinking, saying, what kind of people are these? That is why it's war. And so that's why it was very nostalgia for me when I was asked to tell this, because I'm dealing with that war every day in this place. Another emerging trends we all know, I'll just run through this: new work order or new order of work-life integration. So you find that we used to talk about work-life balance. Now we're now facing work-life integration. Then disintegrating geographical boundaries of and for work. So you find out that people are here in Nigeria. Some of them are doing strong assignments in the UK. They're earning dollars and they're keeping their dollars wherever they want to. So the geographical boundaries of work is gradually disintegrating. Then cross-border migration, that will continue whether we like it or not. Then there is this Sorosoki generation. They don't know much, but they have a huge loud mouth and they will challenge you. They're not people that will be silent. They will challenge you. Then you have age to great challenges. Now, let me explain what I mean by age to great challenges. It's on two parts. So you have the younger people. They look at the older people who are GMs, who are DGMs, who are AGMs, and they said it took them 22 years. And this group of people are still complaining. These AGMs, DGMs, GMs, they're complaining that things are not well. And so the younger generation tell me, we don't have that kind of time. We don't have the patience to work for 22 years and become a GM and still be complaining. We want it now. So that's on one side. You are dealing with that. Is it going to be a policy? Is it going to be a counseling? Is it going to be, what are you going to tell them for them to understand that this will happen? Then you have the older people who are about to retire. They're getting to retirement age. They have nothing they're going to be doing. They have nothing to fall back on. No house to fall back on. No savings to fall back on. And then they want you to give them assignments such as recruitment that a graduate trainee can do for you. And they want to be paid more. So you have that also confronting our generation. If you go out of work now, You don't expect to be recruited to come and do recruitment or the basic things that a graduate trainee can do. And so when I say to them, let me use myself as an example, the governor will not have recruited me to come and do recruitment. Definitely is recruiting me for my specialization, what I have been known to be able to do. And so I ask my colleagues, what is your specialization now that if an organization is looking for, they will call you? And this is one of the other new emerging trends. So now you are close to retirement. Can I teach an old dog a new trick? So there are many of us on this call this morning, and I ask you, what is your area of specialization? If you are doing the normal HR work, don't expect to be recruited over somebody that will cost the organization less. And so you must ask yourself that if you haven't decided what you will be doing now and what you'll be doing when the work is no more, you need to start thinking deeply about it. Very interesting debate and discussion for later that is amazing. Then increase agitation for diversity, inclusiveness, equality, and equity. Now, I've always said to myself, I don't see gender, I don't see religion. So whenever they bring me a CV, my people know what they should do. They take away the gender, they take away the religion. What else do they take away? They take away the age. Those three things I take out. They take out for me, and I want to see what this person can do. If it turns out to be male or female, all well and good. If the person turns out to be from Borno State or from Kogi State or from Oyo State or from everywhere, it turns out well. So when I resumed here, I brought an Ogechi as my EA. I brought an Osamo as my technical assistant. So I started hearing that, Igbo, Edo, he can't find a Yoruba person in Lagos. And I said to them when it came to my hearing, and said, but these people pay their taxes in Lagos. Is that not sufficient for me? And must it be somebody based on religion and ethnicity? I'm looking for someone with a C-suite experience, someone with a graphical digital understanding to work with me. They said, no, this is a Lagos state. This must be so. So you're dealing with all of these things. And I don't know who else is dealing with it. That is why it's an act of war. I know friends who are dealing with the Chinese, who are everywhere in Nigeria now. You're dealing with the Indians. The orientations of the Indians and the Pakistanis and the Lebanese and all of those foreigners to what ethics is compromised. Some of us are dealing with them. And that's the way they've been. Thank God I worked with some of them when I was working in the UK, and I understand those sentiments that they have. But that's the way they think. Now, increased awareness and demand for flexible work hours. People are now asking and saying, can I do 2 hours every day for 4 days? Must I come here every day? In fact, one of the arguments I'm taking up now to help people have a bit more to save is I'm pushing for flexible hours. Can they work from home twice a week so that they are not spending so much weekly on public transport and they're not spending so much on lunch? Can they work flexible hours? Then now everybody wants to do side hustle. That's also good. Let's encourage side hustle. Maybe as long as it does not compromise and conflict with what they're doing and what your business does, you might need to encourage it. Digitalization, we don't have a choice on that. We have to digitalize. And the more we digitalize, the more the numbers of people that are physical in a process begins to reduce. You also have to be careful how you do that, lest you get to the point one day where you have a failure and you don't have any back support for your digitalization process. I'm also caught in the middle of that. So I have also a group of people, senior people, who don't like digital things. They don't use the online platform. They don't use any of the platforms we have. Now, I am pushing because that will help me deal with so many things easily. But they're pushing against it. So you find out that you are dealing with so much at the same time. You're dealing with airstrikes. You're dealing with in the marine strikes, you're dealing on the ground. So at the same time as you are an HR person, you find out that you're wearing the Army uniform, you're wearing the Air Force uniform, you're wearing the Navy uniform. In fact, this day you combine the police uniform, you combine the the National you're wearing the what do you call it? You're wearing the first aider uniform. You're wearing everything as an HR person, and you're combining all these roles. Act of war. That is why. All right, so let me carry on. So some of the realities, signposts or characteristics, these are some of those characteristics: emotional intelligence, artificial intelligence, cultural intelligence. Now, all of these things put together as an HR person, you have to possess them. You have to be resilient. You have to have the stamina. You have to be visionary and strategic in your thinking. Your flexibility and adaptability. You cannot say we did it like this yesterday. Today is a new day. You need to understand financial intelligence. You need cultural intelligence. Today you are dealing with an Igbo person. Tomorrow you are dealing with an Hausa person. And for no reason whatsoever, recently we have brought to the fore more than ever before cultural and religious tendencies that was not as strong as this before. The last election was basically about that. And that was why people took it as war. It was war. In your organization, you have to be careful these days what you said, what you say. So I was challenged, I was confronted openly because of Ogechi, who works with me as an executive assistant. I apologize for those who come from where Ogechi came from. They called me and said, am I sure she's not an obedient? And I said, does it really matter with work? And they gave me an ultimatum to prove that she has a voter's card and she was going to vote in a particular way. Is that not sufficient war? So if she was not going to do that, am I going to let her go or should I go? So it's all about survival. And that's why it's also strategic. Now, should I ask her to go? Maybe I will ask one of you later on to say, should I ask her to go and take somebody from Isaleko? Then I will be surviving. I'm not sure that's the kind of person I am. And I've made that very clear to everybody. Let me carry on. So these are the realities, like I said. HR people, you are also swimming in the same ocean of life. Do not act as if you're not in that same ocean of life. Do not take yourself out of that ocean. If there's an inflationary challenge, it will affect you also. You're not immune to it. And please, HR people, you are not a messiah, nor are you Voltron, defender of the universe. You are not. Now, HR, we can no longer think in isolation to come up and provide all the solutions to stakeholders' expectation. So you know what I do? I bring everybody into the room. We look at the issue and we all agree. So that when we get to management meeting and when we get to the situation where the solution is not going too well, they don't say it's HR. They will say we all agreed that this is what we should do. You have to leverage that a lot. Now, you have to devise and deploy both offensive and defensive HR strategy. Now, to do this, you have to think ahead what is coming. Like I said to you, the moment I had the inaugurational speech on first subsidy, I have set up a WhatsApp platform for every team I have: finance, IT, procurement, administration, HR, corporate strategy. So I have a WhatsApp platform for each group, and then I have a WhatsApp platform for team leads of all those individual departments, and I have a WhatsApp platform for my core team. Immediately that statement came, I sent a message and said, guys, what do you think? We need to start looking at this. Kindly begin to think and put your heads together and let us come up with something tomorrow to look at how we deal with some of these issues. Now, we're no longer dealing with war for talents. We've added to that war of talent. It's still going on. We've now added to that war of talent, the war for patronage and the war for brand superiority. So people are looking at your brand, and your brand speaks about integrity, about legacy, and they're determining whether they should patronize you. Now, I had the opportunity to speak to some of the HR people of some of the companies that just lost their founders and their CEOs and all of that. And I said, how are you going to manage that? Because part of your brand equity was the owners of those businesses. And we know 2 of those people just passed on. How are you managing it? How are you managing continuity? How are you managing survival? Does it mean that some of your customers might move their accounts away? Does it mean that some of their children may come step forward and want to? What was on ground? And it's amazing the responses one gets from them. So they are facing a war of continuity and survival right now. And then the issue around sustainability, growth, continuity, and succession. The other day, I met with the Association of Law Firm Administrators. And one of the things they're dealing with was that new lawyers used to spend like 10 years with them before they leave. Now their 10 years has become 2 years. They are dealing with that now. So lawyers don't want to stay more than 2 years before they go and start their own. And part of the issue of their continuity is this idea of Adeni and Co. Everybody wants to have their own and Co. So they're dealing with that now to say our name will never appear as part of the owners of the law firm. They're also dealing with another thing, a major recruitment from the US law firms for our Nigerian lawyers, who they have found out that they're well grounded. So for example, the Nigerian law firm pays them 30,000 Naira per month. Now, out there, they can get much more than that. And you know, the exchange rate is still in favor. So they can actually get a package of like $100,000. And so the American law practices are taking them away. And so many of the law firms are worried about succession, continuity, growth, sustainability. And there's nothing they can do about it. Because the younger lawyer says the law firm is their own and they're the ones making the money. But now the younger lawyers realize that they don't need to. So the way they give work to law firms now is changing. So you think you know the big guys at the top, but it is the young guys in your mainstream who are actually giving out the work. And their colleagues who left law school with them are the ones coming to them to say, we need work to do. And because they can negotiate with them to say, if we give you this work, something must come back to me. And so they're agreeing, and the big law firms are not getting the good jobs anymore. So there's so much going on in the HR field. And so they are now beginning to look at HR differently in the law firms. And so I've spent like 2 weekends with them looking at how HR should be in law firms. And I'm learning a lot also from those things. What about global economy and supply chain challenges? After COVID, we haven't gotten back to supply chains. If you've traveled recently, you'll find out that the clothes that were on the shelf, the things that were on the shelf in most of the foreign countries 2-3 years ago is still what they have on the shelves. And so these are the realities that confront us, why HR has become a strategic art of war. Okay, again, let me go back. It has stopped. I will have to go back again to trying to, because it has frozen again. Right, it's still frozen. So let me go back again.
I think we can still see it. It's just that it's not running. Okay, fine.
Okay, so let me go back again. Yeah, it is not. And so let me see whether I can get it moving again. It is still not moving. That is. All right, so I will keep trying and see where it gets us.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so let me go back again. So okay, we can see it now again, right?
Not yet.
Is your face that is showing?
Is my face is showing? Okay, let me try now and see.
Okay, so your screen is showing now, but it's showing your Zoom, not the presentation.
Yeah, very interesting. We're all learning the new. Okay.
So this is an out of war for you.
Yes, so all right, I guess it's showing now again. Now, yeah, stop moving again. Okay, so let me, all right. Okay, so I was here, the realities and everything. And this is not sufficient. There's so much other realities, again, we've just done. So for Nigeria, we've just had a transition. The perception, there's so much to deal with. And I was making a case for HR people that you are going to need strong HR consultants working with this government to manage communication. Do not put people that don't understand humanity, the psychology of humanity. Don't put them into key positions. You need to consult with an HR person. We're thinking of doing this. We need to do analysis on what will be the impact of some of the statements, especially because the perception there is out there in town of the people in this administration, and everything is still challenging. And it's going to be like that for a while. So I didn't know whether that was a good way to have started. People are interpreting it to mean that they have gone already on their high horses. They don't care about the people. So they say one thing, they're doing something else. But I'm sure that wasn't the intention. But be that as it may, they will have to manage that perception now. And I don't know whether that will force them to go back into reconsidering whether they need to do the subsidy removal now, or they need to make extra budgetary provisions to accommodate it. Whatever happens, they're dealing with that war right now, and they have to come out with a solution within the next few days. If not, people say the administration is starting on a wrong footing from day one. We don't know, but the days ahead will tell. All right, so what are my counsel? Like I said, engage collaborative and collective solution mindset. Don't put your head in the ground like an ostrich. Don't think you have all the answers. When they call HR call every department involved. They are all stakeholders. And remember that they are the ones managing the people anyway. And then they're the ones telling the people when they come out from those management meetings and say, can you imagine those people in HR? I didn't even know what they're doing. They always say they don't know what HR is doing. But when there is a problem, you're the first that they will call upon. Now, also continuously and regularly evaluate your own personal ask. What do I mean by ask? A stands for attitude. Are you becoming indifferent as HR? As HR, are you still human? And do you take your decisions based on humanity, or you take your decision based on I don't care? The S is skills. Are you continually upscaling, and upskilling your skill is important. Then your knowledge, how vast, how robust, how are you enhancing your knowledge of trends, of things that are happening? I want to believe that HR is taking the bull by the horn to understand financial management. If not, go on a course on financial management. Understand leverage. The president spoke about leverage yesterday. Understand those things. What is it talking about? Then conduct your own SWOT, your strength, your weakness, your opportunities, and your threats, and reflect on the outcome. This is for you. And then once in a while, do a soul search and be sincere and true to yourself. If you're under mental pressure, speak out. If you don't know what to do, speak out. And that's why it's important to leverage all the HR platforms. Get help, engage, belong, and be active in a reliable HR coaching and mentoring support system. Belong somewhere and where you can actually get some help. Then develop yourself to be a subject matter expert. Don't be a generalist now in HR. Don't be a generalist. You don't want to be that. And then engage a code of ethics and operational excellence. This for me, after about 3 months here on this new assignment, I decided that there was a need for a code of ethics and operational excellence. And I will share what I came up with. It took a while for it to get approved, but it's become approved. And we've actually done roll-up banners and put it in strategic areas of the corporation. So what is it? The first one was that I encouraged and I pushed for every member of staff to belong to a professional body. And the reason was that the professional body had a code of ethics. And I remembered my big uncle, Dr. Ani, the former Minister of Finance, who had a little bit of issues with ICANN, and what ICANN did with him. I remember Big Egbon, Mr. Oni with Cadre, and I saw. So right now, 90% of our staff who are at a level belong to a professional body. And we had an understanding if they compromise the ethics of their profession and their code of conduct, we will write to their professional body and we will request them to delist them. And then we'll now put in place our own disciplinary action. Number two, I came up with the fact that protect, enhance, and preserve the common interests of the majority of our staff members. Safeguard and enhance our profitability. Preserve the integrity of the LSDPC brand. When I joined in June, we're preparing to celebrate 50 years. And I've also brought a diaspora market opportunity, and the diaspora people are saying we're dealing with LSDPC because of the brand. Now, that brand has taken 50 years, but the culture that we're currently trying to change has also taken 50 years. So to walk back 50 years has been a lot of work, because that's what they're used to, and that's what they are giving to the next generation. And then number five, I said, be in alignment and agreement with our faith beliefs and doctrine. And some people interpreted this to mean that, what of you, I'm not a Christian or I'm not a Muslim. And I said the law of karma is the third leg. So if you don't believe in any of those, whether you're a Muslim or a Christian, whatever you sow, you will reap. So that's the way we put and define the code of ethics and operational excellence. And this is the first way we're measuring everybody whenever there is a compromise. So these are used in two ways, both combative and offensive. So whenever anything is done wrong now, I say, can we go back to this? Now, I may not be able to put policies to manage behaviors and orientations and attitudes, but this can guide everybody. And that's helped a lot within a few months to align things and help us move in another direction. This is why strategic HR is now an act of war. So every time somebody signs in, it locks it up. I don't know why he's doing that, but so he's locked it up. Okay, he's moving now. So that's the way, that's my journey so far. So I've tried to involve a few things that I've learned in the past to now. And so as I close and I ask us to, do we have any questions? Do we have any answers? Do we have any feedback? Egbon Joel, thank you very much for the privilege and the honor. It's been my pleasure. Thank you, the house as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This has been really well loaded. Imagine if we have left it where we left it previously. We will have missed all these conversations. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I find very, very inspiring the conversation around how we communicate to the people in these particular times, especially when you spoke about HR being the chief war officer.
Yes.
Or when you mentioned that HR is now the corporate matron, carrying the bottles around the whole place. All right, so the floor is open. Dear distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please share your thoughts and questions for our speaker. You can ask questions in the chat box, or you can raise your hand so that you're given the opportunity to unmute yourself and speak.
Hello, Mom. Is Steven around?
All right, comments, questions, observation.
Okay, so while the questions come, I just have one thought and also one question to run by you. Maybe you also help us with this.
Yes,
In
sir.
one of your conversations, you also mentioned of the various wars you mentioned. One of them is the war on culture.
Yeah.
And interestingly, there is a serious war trying to survive the generational divide that we find around us, especially if you're coming from an institution that has legacy employees that have been there for a while. And then you have teeming young ones who are at that point in time. And you're trying to steer the ship a little bit, if not several degrees, away from the older generation. By way of a few thoughts, what would you recommend for organizations that are at that point in time, especially similar HR transformation agents today, trying to change the perceptions within their organization in order to accommodate the new generations that we're finding?
Thank you very much, Joel. This is very interesting. So with the Learning and Development Network International last week, we were looking at optimizing organizational culture for operational excellence. So I spoke extensively last week about the issue of culture. And unfortunately, I said something. I said culture is best drilled down from headship. And somebody immediately stopped me and said, why am I using headship and not leadership? So I said to them that, how many of us remember Animal Farm, George Orwell? Now, Animal Farm, the conclusion with Animal Farm was that all animals are equal, leadership. But one animal is more equal than all, headship. Now, if you're going to talk about culture, that's why you need a dynamic headship. An headship that can integrate and work with both. And that's why I also said to them that if you have an headship who is also ancient and old and tends to align with the old for safety, let me say that again, align with the old for safety, who is not a risk taker, who can say, I need the next generation. And so I gave a number of illustrations. For example, I don't know how many of us on this call, for example, we go into an Ebano or a spa to buy Ovaltine, Milo to drink. It's the next generation, your children or your grandchildren that will say, Daddy, Mommy, please get this. And that is why you will notice what those companies did. Nestle came, Milo Lawn Tennis Clinic, Milo this, Milo that, Cadbury this, because they knew that they needed the market of the next generation, which is an emerging market. Now, many companies are not thinking that way yet. And this is why HR needs to begin to direct them to say, our survival. So imagine if all my market for Milo is the people on this call now. I will not have any good profit at the end of the month, at the end of the day, because 80% of the people here will not go out to look for Milo. In fact, they will be running from Milo. So they ran away. Now, you will also notice one thing that Nigerian breweries did. It wasn't that Gouda wasn't selling, but they came out and said, Gouda Ultimate Search. It wasn't for the 40-year-olds. It wasn't for the 30-year-olds. Even though personally, I was against that campaign, it was on the ground of morality. But on the ground and the basis of capitalism and profiteering, it was a good strategy. So they said, capture them young. They are the ones that still can try and bury their worries by getting drunk. So they came out with Gouda Ultimate Search. I don't know how many people here have ever tried to do what they did on Gouda Ultimate Search. Now, another thing that unfortunately is reckless and careless, again, moral ground, is Big Brother Nigeria. But you will find out the number of young people that waste their data to watch that program. They are reaching out to demographics by cultural orientation. And that's why you also see the musical videos. I've always wondered why the women are not carrying that campaign. The women are practically naked, but the men are covered up. It's also a cultural thing. They are attaching to something. Now, let's come back to corporate culture. Now, all these young people that are doing this, I want to create a connection and an alignment. So they have seen that out there. And when they come to your organization, they want to behave like that. And so if headship is not careful and come out with a vision, a clear definition. Now, the truth is that I said to that audience that day that your people fit should align with your culture fit. In those days, we did people fit based on qualification. We should do people fit now based on culture. And I use Nordstrom. Nordstrom is a store in America, and Nordstrom, what attracted me to Nordstrom about 15 years ago was a statement I saw on their website. They said, we only recruit people who are well brought up from home. I read that statement and I shared it with my wife. So the next 2 months that we're in the US, I sent a mail to their MD that I would like to meet with him and I would like to ask this question. And before then, we went into several Nordstrom stores. And I will encourage you that when next you get to the US, if you get to the US, go into a Nordstrom store. But before then, go to their website. You will be amazed at some of the things they said on their website. And so we met with him and I asked him only one question. How do I know somebody is well brought up from home? His response was that if you're well brought up from home, then you will recognize, because birds of the same feather flock together. He said, if you're well brought up, and that is talking about behavior and orientation. And we all know that charity begins from home. So as much as we pay attention to other things, we need to pay attention to upbringing, respect, regard, love for hard work, supportive, innocent, integrity, sincerity, honesty. You can't use policy to define that. You can't use a vision statement to get that into people. And you can't use training. So let your people fit definition be a culture fit definition. We like people who can do this. And then you will ask yourself, how can you determine it? So if you yourself, that's why I said headship has to be, because remember what John Maxwell said, that if you have been heading a place for a while, you and that place become one and the same. So if you have, like for example, the other day, a young guy came back with a report. He said he went with a senior person on an official trip, and that they started drinking during the day, and that when they were leaving after work, they went out to eat, they went to a club, and the guy was, this senior person was the one arranging somebody for him to take back to the hotel, and that they were both married. And he said to me, hey, what should I do? I said, what do you think you should do? He said it was going to be a performance issue. You see, this is where headship can be manipulative. Now, you have to make up your mind, whether you're male or female, that when you travel with a younger person, kill your indulgences and don't try and force it down the throat of a younger person. And that is culture for me. Now, some people may look at it and say it's not a big deal, but that's culture. And that's good manners. That's good upbringing. If you drink and you travel with a younger person, don't get tipsy, how much more drunk. You are losing moral respect and moral right. This issue of culture is too deep for us to even just talk about it for a while. It's something that is entrenched now that we need to be careful about. What about the dress code of culture? You cannot also say, oh, we have guidelines on dress codes. I think in those days, it was moderation that determined how we dressed. And so culture has to be drilled down from the top, and you have to define it clearly, and it has to be behavioral. It has to attend to several areas of our lives. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That again is another journey on its own in terms of truly a war on culture.
Yes, so it's a war on culture, and the war is heavy. Yeah.
I also feel that some of these emerging themes around culture is coming at us like a burning train.
Yes.
However, institutions, leadership must be deliberate about steering the ship in the direction they want, and they cannot achieve it with fire and force. Especially if you already have in existence a culture that is deviant to what you're trying to put in place. A lot of change management will be required for you to be able to get to that destination.
Absolutely, sir.
If
Absolutely.
not so, you may burn out. Okay,
Absolutely.
we have some thoughts in the chat box. Very interesting one. Tia says, very, very enlightening perspective. She says the dynamics and interplay of the strategic, the arts, and the war are quite important for us as HR professionals. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Then Neka says, gratis to the team. It says we should do this more often. All right. The context setting has been refreshing. I've enjoyed more AA's share of personal experience and challenges. The ethical and cultural dilemmas. At this level, it is so much more than technical skills. I agree with you completely. This is not taught in Harvard.
No, this is not technical skills. This is not even education anymore. I mean, let me give you another illustration. So I think it was 3 weeks ago. Okay, so they had contacted me, members of the Federal Government College Ogbomoso. They were celebrating their 30 years valedictory from Federal Government College Ogbomoso. And they wanted me to come and speak to them about life and times and seasons. And I overheard them having a discussion to say, what is this new trend that women don't wear underwear anymore? Why should they not wear underwears to the office? And then they sit carelessly. And that in a particular bank, the gentleman sitting opposite this lady had to continually use flip chart paper and staple it to the gap in front of the lady's table. And when she comes in the morning, she will rip it off and tell him that he should carry his eyes away. And that she will sit carelessly. And I said it's also a cultural failure. In the days, and TA is here, you know, I remember Queen's College. They will say, work with your heads looking up, with your chest out. But those were the days. I'm not sure QC is still preaching that message. Now, where did we get it wrong? That even when a lady, so women says they don't want to be called women. Even fella sang about it. African woman, no go Greek, she's go say she be lady. Ladies are meant to sit with their legs crossed. So when did we get to the point where ladies now sit with their legs spread? So you find out that how do you want to address this in an organization? Do you call it molestation from the woman? In those days, it was male molesting. Now, who is really molesting by dress sense? We were at the inauguration yesterday, and this woman came. I still can't get over it. I'm still, now, Joel, I'm sorry to say this, and pardon, I'm not a male chauvinist, but our sensibility was assaulted. And she took such time cleaning chairs that had been cleaned. And so she was bent over and everything was just standing in all our faces. And we all started looking in different directions. This is an older woman. She has children. Now, in those days, they would say community raised a child. Now, if you were to tell our daughter who is improperly dressed, now I don't even know what is improperly dressed anymore. She would tell you and say, I am taking an example from where? My mom. Don't go to the store, we see what is happening. So we have an issue, that is why it is war, that even we that were well brought up, we're struggling to bring up our own children well. We had good home training. How come we're not drilling this down? So when the children go to work, who is meant to correct them at work? That's why HR has become the matron. So they expect HR to come out with a policy of how to dress. And then the people close and you run into them at the weekend at a departmental store. And you are wondering, are these my staff? Or somebody else? That is war for you. So you are there and you are being careful. So the other day I ran into an HR person. I said, that's your staff now. He said, I don't want to be insulted. When I'm in the organization, I can talk. If I address her because of the way she was dressed, she would tell me she's out of the organization. But that wasn't the way it was then. You were a brand champion for your organization and you can't do anything. You can't drive facing the traffic. You can't dress anywhere. So that is why HR is now war. How do you want to recruit somebody and you ask them at interview, if there's traffic in any way, you're going somewhere and there's traffic, what do you do? And they tell you, I will drive one way. And you still went ahead and recruited the person. Then your culture fit is no longer about the people fit. So you say to me and say, because it's the best person, his orientation is poor. It would get the organization into trouble. So we have to go back to the drawing board and look at a number of things. And we define this thing within culture. So Uncle Joel, if we start on culture, we will not go. We will not go. We will not go.
Tables are not just being shaken, they are being broken. All right, interesting. Quite a lot of perspective. I'm sure there are a lot of opinions out there, if only those who are signed on can share a few of those thoughts. While we wait for them to share some thoughts and maybe ask a couple of questions, can I steer the conversation towards HR strategy?
You know, in one of the sessions, you mentioned that you mentioned something about the Lord help me HR strategy. When you're stuck and then you say a prayer and hope that things will work. So beyond the Lord help me HR strategy, how can HR find actionable insights that will make leadership want to listen to them? And when they are executing, how do they ensure successful execution? Because at the end of the day, they are measured by the documented outcomes of those executions and how those outcomes affect the organization. So how can HR find areas within the organization that they can pay attention to? I'm not asking what do they do to audit well and ensure that what they bring up are things that leadership will be willing to invest in at that point in time.
Thank you very much, Joel. One of the things for every business owner or every business leader is revenue, cost effectiveness, return on investment. Now, those things are all financial. Now, I mentioned earlier on that HR must begin to understand financial. HR must be able to measure conservatively the impact of a learning and development intervention. And that's why we must do our skills gap analysis as strategically and as measurable as possible. The days where you just say, everybody is going for this training, everybody is going for that training. So when I use the example, for example, that I said people should belong to a professional body, I brought the justification that professional bodies have code of conduct, which is the code that should uphold your professional conduct. And number two, I said everybody must attend their professional bodies conferences. And why? I said because professional bodies attend to what is present needed. You can have a training that deals with generic, but check every conference of a professional body is dealing with present issues. So I said, number two, they must attend, they must belong, they must attend. Number three, I want to judge their participation and their ability to communicate and lead by them contesting and holding positions in those professional bodies. I am an example. I said I wasn't just called to come and sit on the council of NITED or CIPM or any other professional body. We had to come up with a manifesto. We had to campaign, we had to debate, I had to reach different demographics. My manifesto had to attend to the needs of those demographics. And we had to debate one among ourselves. So I had to learn to communicate. I had to learn to interact and engage with different demographics. And so when I brought that up, everybody went along with it. So you have to look at things where you yourself create justification. But like I said, you are swimming in that same river. If you have not experienced it, you can't sell it.
That's true.
So you also must continually think. That's why I said, do your own SWOT. Do your own ask in terms of your attitude, your skills, and your knowledge. How much do you know? How much is your own skills development? Must things always be the way you think? No. So those are all the things that I have also put myself to test to ensure that I also stay above my game. And so you look and say, what exactly are other organizations doing in your sector? Not to compete with them, because see, there is no need wasting money to compete with anybody. If you set your own agenda, then you find a way to deploy it. So when I came in here and I saw the level of toxicity, one of the things I did was that I asked whether there was Thank God It's Friday. They said no. I said, do we have a budget for it? They said no. So I said, okay, get me a DJ. For the first 1 week I resumed, a DJ played from morning till 3 o'clock. And so people started asking that, what is this new person doing? What is this new ED going to be doing and everything? Then one day we came out with it. Thank God it's Friday. And they said, what is going to be? Dance, music. So started having Thank God it's Friday. We celebrate the birthdays. How did I get it happen? There was no budget. Finance reports to me. So I told the head of finance, can you call the banks and all our insurance people, everybody that is our vendor, call them to a meeting. And so I said to them, I said, you know, this is relationship management. What are you guys giving me that I want to keep putting our money in your banks? I said, this is what I want. I want to start Thank God it's Friday. There's no budget provision for it. I need a sponsor. One of the banks stepped forward and said they will sponsor. They've been sponsoring it. And so we moved. And so I said, this is what I will give them. I will move all the staff salaries to the bank. But beyond that, Joel, we just have to, that is why it's war. So they started sponsoring Thank God it's Friday, 600,000 every month. I moved all the staff salaries, and I said, in moving all the staff salaries, can we have an understanding of buy to own, 9 months buy to own interest-free credit? And we called it lifestyle improvement agenda for staff. So everybody, you just win-win situation. So they have more money. Then one of the banks went and reported to the Lagos state government that have reduced their budget. And I said, sir, we didn't reduce the budget, but this is what they were there. So he said, but you people had, why didn't you decide to sponsor? Now, all of them are now coming back. They want to sponsor. So you just have to be bold and courageous sometimes and think, not even outside the box, think that there is no boss. Now, they told me that, said, if they go and report in Alausa and they will call you, I said, they will call me now, and I will tell them what I'm doing. I'm dealing with toxicity. So while people were saying we're having a party, I said it was a strategic party to break down toxicity. So we did games, we did all kinds of things. One day I told Akororo to come. One day Oshbi came. You must just do, my own matroning is different. I will do those things. And so we must think, and that's why when people say, can they replicate what I'm doing? I said, be careful, understand your environment first. Then do whatever you need to do, but first understand your system, adopt before you adapt. Don't just take it all line and sinker. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You are truly a chief war officer. I will add that to your title now.
Chief war officer. So okay, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, you've had it all, our HR friends and folks out there. This has been amazing. Please share an emoji to show your appreciation for what our new Chief War Officer of HR has taught us today. Thank you so much. This is
You're welcome.
Fantastic, fantastic.
You're welcome.
All right.
Bolus, thank you so much. I see you uploading. Agnes, thank you so much. I see you uploading. Courage, creativity, sell the what's in it for me and offer value to the greater good. Thank you very much, Neka. Well, thank you, Lillian, also. So I need to run away. Am I permitted to do? Thank you very much.
Yes, you are. You've done great for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I hope you will listen to us when we come calling again.
Absolutely. Oh, definitely, I will. Definitely.
Beautiful. Thanks.
All right, sir.
Bye-bye, sir. Okay, our dear friends out there, this has been fantastic. The recording will be made available to everyone who attended this particular session so that you can take your time to pick up the nuggets that you really want to implement. And like he ended, please contextualize it, ensure that you fit it into your organization, and also think not just outside the box. Assume there is no box, all right? And challenge every status quo. Thank you again. And we'll see you again during the next session. Same time, this time next week. We'll have another webinar coming up. Thank you. And bye-bye to all of you.
Thanks. Bye, Joe. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Maybe nowhere.